She had nothing. No home, no family, not even a warm coat against the winter cold. Yet, when she found a man collapsing in a dark alley, she risked her own life to save him. What she didn't know was that he was a billionaire, and what he did next would not only repay her kindness, it would shock the entire city. Snow swirled in the dim glow of the street lamps, settling over the empty city streets like a cold blanket. I pulled my knees closer to my chest, tucking my chin into the frayed collar of my jacket. It had been another long day of searching for scraps, another night where sleep would come in shivers. But then, I heard it. A sound that didn't belong to the quiet winter night. At first, I thought it was the wind slipping between the buildings, low, broken. But then came a soft groan, deep and strained. I froze. It was coming from the alley behind the closed bakery. Slowly, cautiously, I stood and peered around the corner. That was when I saw him. A man lay slumped against the brick wall, his head tilted awkwardly to one side. His expensive suit was soaked through with melting snow, the silk tie clinging to his chest. His skin was pale, too pale, and each breath came like a battle. "Sir?" My voice cracked as I hurried toward him. "Hey, can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered. His lips moved, but only a faint whisper escaped. "Help me." I glanced around the alley. No one. Not a single soul in sight. I dropped to my knees beside him, pressing my hands against his shoulder to steady him. His body was frighteningly cold. I didn't think. I just pulled off my thin jacket and wrapped it over him, trying to trap what little warmth was left. "You're gonna be okay," I said, though my own voice trembled. "Stay with me, please." He groaned again, his head lolling forward. I tried to lift him, but he was heavy, far heavier than my tired arms could manage. Still, I hooked my arms under his and began dragging him toward the street. My knees scraped on the icy pavement, my muscles screaming in protest. A pair of headlights appeared in the distance. I stumbled into the road, waving frantically, "Please, help!" The car screeched to a stop, and a man jumped out. Together, we hauled the stranger into the back seat. As we sped toward the hospital, I kept my hand on his. His fingers twitched faintly, his cloudy eyes meeting mine for just a second, long enough for me to see something flicker there. Recognition? Gratitude? I couldn't tell. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know that the man whose life I was holding in my hands was one of the wealthiest men in the city, or that saving him would set into motion events that would shock everyone. The hospital smelled faintly of antiseptic, and winter air dragged in through the sliding glass doors. I sat on a hard plastic chair in the corner of the ER waiting area, my thin clothes still damp from the snow. My hands ached from the effort of dragging him out of the alley, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. Every so often, a nurse glanced my way. I could tell what they saw. A homeless girl, shivering, clutching nothing but a ragged backpack and a sense of stubbornness. But I didn't care. That man was alive because I had been there, and I wasn't going to vanish before I knew if he was going to make it. After what felt like hours, a doctor in a navy blue coat stepped out. His expression was measured. "He's stable for now. Severe hypothermia, dangerously low blood sugar, and exhaustion. Another hour out there, and..." He didn't finish the sentence. I swallowed hard. "Can I see him?" The doctor hesitated, then nodded, only for a minute. The room was dim, the steady beep of a heart monitor filling the silence. He lay on the bed, skin still pale but his breathing even now. Without the snow clinging to him, I could see more clearly. The fine lines of his suit, the gold watch on his wrist, and the subtle but unmistakable air of someone used to being in control. I stepped closer. "You scared me back there," I murmured, not even sure if he could hear me. His eyes fluttered open. For a moment, they were unfocused. Then they found me. "You, the alley." His voice was hoarse, strained. "Yeah," I said softly, "you were freezing. I got you here." He studied me, his gaze sharp, despite the weakness in his voice. "Why?" The question caught me off guard. "Because you needed help." His eyes narrowed slightly, as if my answer puzzled him. "Most would walk away." I looked down at my worn shoes. "I know what it feels like when no one stops." Something flickered across his face, something I couldn't place. But before I could ask, the nurse stepped in, telling me my time was up. As I turned to leave, his voice rasped again. "Don't disappear." I didn't know why those words made my chest tighten. I also didn't know that when he left this hospital, he would not just be a man I saved, but a man who could change my life forever.
The hospital at dawn was a different world, quiet, almost sacred. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, turning the polished floors gold. I had dozed in the waiting room chair, my head against the wall, but the sound of footsteps woke me. When I looked up, a man in a tailored charcoal suit was standing in front of me. He was polished, commanding, someone who clearly didn't belong in the ER at this hour. "You're the young woman who brought him in?" His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Yes," I said cautiously. He studied me for a beat longer. "Do you even know who you saved last night?" I shook my head. "That man is Alexander Grant. He's worth billions. Real estate, shipping, tech, you name it, he owns part of it." He leaned forward slightly. "And yet you dragged him out of an alley with your own hands?" I didn't know what to say. The man I had seen lying helpless in the snow. A billionaire? "He's awake now," the suited man said finally. "And he asked for you, personally." My stomach tightened as I followed him down the hall. Inside the private room, the man from the alley, Alexander Grant, sat upright in bed. His skin still held a faint pallor, but his gaze was clear now, and fixed entirely on me. "You stayed," he said, his voice low, deliberate. I shrugged. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay." "Most people," he said, "would have walked past, pretended not to see me. I've learned that the hard way." "I know what that feels like," I replied quietly. Something flickered in his expression, not pity, recognition, like my words touched something he kept buried. "You didn't ask for anything," he said after a moment. "Not money, not a reward." "Why?" "Because you were dying," I said simply. His lips curved in the faintest ghost of a smile. "That's rare. I don't forget rare." Before I could respond, the door opened and two men in dark suits stepped inside, carrying leather folders. Their conversation died instantly when they saw me. "Mr. Grant," one began, "we need to go over the—" "Cancel everything," he cut in, his voice suddenly commanding. "Clear my schedule. I want to talk to her." The men hesitated, glancing at each other in confusion. And that was the moment I realized, whatever this was between us, it was only the beginning. The room emptied, leaving just the two of us. Alexander Grant's eyes stayed locked on mine, as if he were studying every detail of my face. "I wasn't supposed to be there last night," he began slowly. "I'd just left a charity gala. Ironic, isn't it? Surrounded by people raising money for the homeless, yet I ended up freezing to death in an alley, unnoticed." "Until me," I said softly. He gave a single nod. "Until you." I shifted awkwardly. Look, I didn't save you for a thank you or anything. You don't owe me. That's where you're wrong, he interrupted, his tone firm. I owe you more than my life. I owe you the truth. I frowned. The truth? He leaned forward slightly. When I was your age, I was homeless too. Slept under bridges, dug through trash for food. People looked right through me, except for one woman. She pulled me out of that life, gave me a second chance. And I swore that if I ever had the power, I would do the same for someone else. My chest tightened. And you think that's me? He said, I don't think, I know. Before I could speak, he reached for the phone on his bedside table and dialed. It's me, he told someone on the other end. Have the penthouse suite prepared. And call my lawyers. I'm taking guardianship papers to the courthouse today. I froze. Guardianship? Wait, what are you saying? He met my gaze without hesitation. You're coming home with me. No more alleys, no more cardboard. You saved me when the world didn't care. Now I'm going to make sure you never have to be cold or hungry again. Tears stung my eyes, but I tried to blink them back. Why me? He smiled faintly. Because you didn't see a billionaire. You saw a human being. And that is priceless. In that moment, I realized my life had shifted forever. I walked into the hospital a homeless girl, with nothing but a tattered backpack. I was walking out with something I had never dared to dream of, a future. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to this channel. Every week we share powerful, true-to-life moments that remind us kindness still exists. Join us, and you might just hear the story that changes the way you see the world.